Alright, once your fiberglass is cured, you can now add lenses to your mask. But before you do that, you're going to have to take care of the inside of the mask. Put it on, and if you're uncomfortable with, the eye sockets around your eyes, like they're pushing in a little bit, and you don't want to trim them up because they look the way you want them to, take something you can get a cushion with. That little green foam pad you can get at the craft stores. Anything that's solid but still soft. And put it right on your cheekbones, right underneath your eye, and glue it in there with some pretty strong glue. I used super glue, and they're pretty much staying in there. And let those dry, and put the mask on. And if there are things in there that, again, are poking in on your face and it's uncomfortable, take some fiberglass resin and just glop it on that spot to smooth it over to make it a little bit more comfortable. Unless you have a Dremel tool and a grinding wheel, or whatever you want to call these things, you can grind it down. May be a little hard to do with some rough sandpaper because you're just going to have to concentrate on it, but you can still do it. And once you got that all taken care of, to get rid of the odor of the resin on the inside of the mask so you're not constantly breathing in, spray a coat of lacquer on the inside of it, and that'll lock the odor from the inside of the mask. Alright, to start adding lenses to your mask, get yourself some sunglasses. I recommend getting 2. That way, if you ruin the first set, like making it the wrong shape, scratching it up, you'll have a second set and you won't have to worry about the store not having it. And if you get the first set right, you can always return the second ones. Pop the lenses out, and there are a couple ways you can start cutting the lens. One, if you have your Dremel tool, you can use your grinding wheel to start taking it off. If you don't have the Dremel tool, I recommend getting a metal file, one that has a flat edge and a rounded side, and you can file down from the sides of the lens to get it to be the shape that you want. Now, if you're impatient, like I was when I first started doing this, you can cut the lens off. Some lenses are soft enough to where you can get them with a pair of scissors. Others, like the thicker ones, you can take them off with wire cutters. But be careful with the wire cutters, because if you try and snip off too much of the lens at once, well, on the thin ones it won't do it. It's going to cut off a lot of the lens coming out from the part of the wire cutter that dips in. So you want to be sure to keep the flat side of the wire cutters towards the lens that you're wanting to keep. And once you get your lenses out and all your stuff, to start cutting it, to make it a little easier to start getting the shape of the lens you want. Every lens that I've messed with, Sharpie has always come off. But to double check it, take the Sharpie and just mark the outside of the lens, because you're going to be using the inside and you're going to be cutting off the outside. Let it sit for about a minute, and then rub it off, get it wet, wipe it off. As long as it comes off, you can use the Sharpie. And once you got that all figured out, take your lens and hold it up to the eye socket where you want to put it. And I don't know if you can see it very well because I can't get a good picture on. There we go. Hold it up to the lens where you want the top of the lens to be, and take your Sharpie and draw a line that is a little lower than where you want the bottom of the lens to be. Okay, now once you have the bottom of your lens just about where you want it to be, start taking in the corner of it. I can't get an angle. Stupid nose. Start taking in the insides Get it as close as you can. You might not be able to get it perfect. That's okay, because once you attach the lens to the mask, you're really not going to be able to tell. Since mine already pretty much matches up the way it was cut. Then go ahead and start taking in the outsides of the lens to just about where you want them to be. Okay, now once you have the outside of the lens just about where you want it to be, keep in mind you want to have some mask still under the lens. I would say don't go any less than 1/8 of an inch, because you're going to be attaching the lens to the mask with air drying clay. I'll be showing you how to do that once you have the lens shaped the way you want it to look. And once you've got the outside to about where you want it to be, you can then start carving or shaping the outsides of the lens to the shape you want it, and still getting it as close to lying on the mask that you can. It's okay if you can't, because you can take care of that with the air drying clay. Okay, now once you have your lens to the shape and size you want it to be on your mask, this is why I recommended getting a file with a rounded side to it for your lenses, because you're going to be needing as big of a surface area as you can get when you're putting the lens into the clay that's on the mask. So take the file and take out the corner that's underneath the lens, and you can then tweak it a little bit to get a better fit on the mask. And once you have that all taken care of, take some painter's tape and cover the lens, and cut off the edges. You get a better cut if you're using an X-Acto knife. And then take that tape off. Come on. And on your other lens, you want to take that tape and put it on the back side of the other lens. That way you will get, if you can see it, let's see what we can do here. I'm doing this backwards. There we go. You will get the reverse image of the lens you already cut. Alright, now once you have your lenses cut to the size you want, cover them again with painter's tape. Hold it onto the mask where you want it to be, and take your Sharpie and draw a line where the lens is going to be sitting. And then take some air dry clay and put a bead of it on the inside of that line you just drew. And then take your lens. Oh, don't worry about getting the clay wet right now to blend the pieces together. Take your lens, put it on there, and press it in. Oh, quiet. And once you have it in place, hold it from the front. Take something small and round, and with the clay that's on the underneath of the lens, you want to push it back away from your eye so that you can see better. This is also what the lens is going to be resting on, and what you can glue it to if, by the slim chance, the lens comes off. Finish this up here. Now, if you notice that there are spots underneath the lens where there is no clay, just take a little bit of it, drop it in the eye socket, and pack it in. Alright, once you've gotten that taken care of, dip your fingers in the water and start rubbing the clay that's on the outside to blend it in. And you want to keep some on the edges of the lens, because that's what's going to help hold it to the mask. And this is also when you can use the clay to fill in the spots that don't touch up with the mask. And once you do have this all taken care of, let it dry, keep the painter's tape on it, because that will keep a lot of fiberglass resin and paint and lacquer from getting onto the lens. You might get a little bit on it, but that's okay. We'll take care of that in the next video. Okay, now once you have your lenses all taken care of, let the clay dry. Again, for this little amount, like I said, for if you're doing adding details to it, just to be safe, let it dry for about a day. Now, if the lens does by chance happen to pop out, and the only way that it will is if you put these lenses on one of those latex rubber Halloween masks, because it'll bend on the eye and the clay will disconnect. If something hooks into the side of the lens, gets under it and pries it out of the clay, and if for some weird reason you take something and jab at the back of the lens, it'll pop out. If the lens does pop out, because you do have that spot of clay where it's sitting on, you can glue it back on. Just so you can fix this stuff on the spot, get a little container of whatever you're going to glue it in, so that you can carry it in your pocket and fix it on the spot. If you're going to be using the super glue that's in the little squeeze bottles, be sure you keep something like a needle with you so that you can poke into the little squeeze bottle to break the dried up super glue and then super glue the lens back onto your mask.